She is juggling lots of things, and I don't even know. And actually, you know what? I want to make sure I take some notes here. I've been trying to get her on the panel here for a couple of years, but I never asked her early enough so that she could get a babysitter because Miss Catherine Sullivan has a lovely little daughter who has now made an appearance at the racetrack a few times. Very cute. And so I'm so happy to have her here with us tonight for a little bit because here's a woman that, I know, a little bit about her family. There's a lot of Sullivans in the racing business here, but I don't know what it is that she does all day. And I know that other than Mark Casse himself and maybe David Adams, who saddles horses and stuff for Mark here, Catherine Sullivan is the focus, the eyes of the Mark Casse stable here, and it's the leading barn. It's got horses all over the place. The horses that race here are just one beautiful horse after another. I don't know how she keeps them all straight, but we're going to talk to her a little bit. So please help me welcome Catherine Sullivan. She's got her own microphone too. So Catherine, just before we get into the, what it is that you do all the time during the day, because I can't even imagine, we'll all get confused, but your family, you have at least, I know, 2 sisters who are also working the track, but where did your background in horse racing start?
I think that came from my dad, who was a racing fan and got us all into riding. So we all rode horses and showed horses as kids. And we ended up on the racetrack because my sister Nancy was writing the bar exam, and we'd always worked around horses, and she was looking for a job to do while she was writing the bar exams, and someone said, well, go to the racetrack, because the hours, you can just work in the morning and do your classes and study in the afternoon. And she went to the West Gate and hooked up with Trevor Swan, if you remember Trevor Swan, many years ago. And so that's how she did actually pass the bar, and she worked as a lawyer for about 6 months and then came to the racetrack. But we all sort of followed in her footsteps. And we said if she wanted to use skate that day and hooked up with some terrible horseman, none of us would probably be here. But luckily she had hooked up with a great horseman, and we have all had a great career here.
That is an amazing story that you just, so you guys, your dad was a racing fan. Did he own horses or he just liked racing?
He was a racing fan. After we were all working in the racetrack, he did own a couple of pieces of horses, a couple little horses along the way.
Yeah. And now did you go to school and think that you were going to do something else?
I definitely did. I was riding horses, and when I went to university, I sort of stopped riding because I didn't want horses, ironically, to be my life. And all through school, I would come work on the racetrack. In the summer, I'd work at breeding farms, do a lot of different things. And after I graduated, I actually spent about 10 years just traveling around the world, working around the world and doing all different things that had nothing to do with horses. I came back to live in Canada. I was working downtown, and I would spend my weekends hot walking. And eventually decided that this is probably where I should be, so came back to work at the racetrack.
It's amazing how many stories I hear of that. I mean, almost every feature story I write about someone is about they took something in school. Even quarter horse racing I've been covering this year. They went to school for computer sciences, and they did that, and they took a job doing that, and then they left it and finally came to the racetrack, and now they're at the racetrack and having a great time and doing well, making a career for themselves. So I mean, it certainly is a common story. So you were traveling around the world. Then you came back here walking lots. So what was your first job at that time at the racetrack?
Well, when I left my job in the city, I actually came back. I worked for Woodbine. I worked as the assistant to the vice president of racing, which was a great job because I learned about the other side of racing, from the racetrack side. So I learned a lot about the business side of racing, which was really great. It was a great background for me. And I probably did that job for about 5 years. But then I missed the horse side of things, so left Woodbine and was doing more horse-related.
And then what did you do to get back with the horses?
I was doing a little buying for friends. I was managing some stables. I've always done computer work, invoicing, that type of thing. So I was doing that for various trainers. Just a little bit of this and that.
And how did you end up at your job now? And I guess, I mean, what would you call yourself at the Mark Casse stable? Like, what would be your title?
Well, I am licensed as an assistant trainer.
Okay.
I'm sort of a different type of assistant trainer. I'm like a business manager maybe as well, an office manager, something along those lines. I've been doing a little bit of work for Mark on the side when he needed someone more. So I started working just almost part-time for him. And then it just evolved, and now it's what I do all the time. All the time.
All the time. So you have your assistant trainer's license and you're a business manager. So how did you hook up with Mark? How did it come that you're just doing a little bit of work for him, and then one day he said, well, why don't you have more of a permanent role here?
I had worked, I was building some websites for people, and I had done some work on his website, and I very rarely talked to him. And he was on the rail one day, and I just happened to go up and say hi, and we were talking, and he's saying, you know, I'm kind of looking for someone to come in and help do some stuff around, and help out, you know, as I'm sure Janice will talk about, his wife runs a lot of the business, and they just needed someone to help. And so I started helping, and then it just kind of grew and grew and grew.
It's amazing. So what is your day like then, your days? I mean, I'm sure they're very different, because I know some days I might pop by the Mark Casse stable to see if you're there, but you're off doing something else that's not necessarily, you know, right with the horses there. What are your days like? What time do you get up in the morning? I know you have a young daughter, but what is your horse day like?
Well, I was very fortunate working for Mark when I had my daughter, because he let me change my schedule, because it's very hard to find childcare at 5 o'clock in the morning. So I come here, I actually come first to the front side at like 7:30 in the morning, and I sit on the second floor, just out front here, and watch the horses trained from here. We have binoculars that videotape. So we videotape every workout, not just here, but at all our different locations, and we upload them so Mark can watch every horse work, no matter where he is.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
Binoculars that videotape while you're watching.
Yeah, they're great. They're really super.
And they probably cost, what, $100? Binoculars that they watch the workouts and they film them so that they can put them in the computer or on a website so that Mark can watch all his horses working, no matter where he is and where these horses are working. And I think I have seen the website here where they show some of the horses working, and it's quite amazing though, but it's important. Workouts are important, aren't they?
Absolutely. And because we do tape them, we have a record of them so we can go back, check how I mean, obviously every trainer makes notes about their works, and we do that as well, but it's nice to be able to go back and go, you know, he just was moving better 2 weeks ago than he is this time, and it's a great reference to have.
So when you're done watching the workouts in the morning, then where do you go?
I usually go to the barn. As you mentioned, David is really our #1 assistant. He is the horse guy. He does everything really in Mark's stead, training horse-wise. Go in, check with David, make sure everything's going well in the barn. I'm also sort of our human resources department. So, anything to do with workman's compensation, any employee issues, I do our payroll. So after that, I tend to work from home a lot because I get more done than sitting in the barn where there's endless supply of agents and people coming through. So I do, I'll usually go home late morning. Usually I stop in the race office or the licensing office. I work through the afternoon, take a few hours off that I spend with my daughter, and then I tend to work a few hours in the evening because it's quiet.
Still nimble.
Your phone's not going.
Until I fall on my face.
And that's when I actually email with Mark the most.
Oh yeah?
It's quiet for him too.
And so is that your conversations with him are done by email rather than telephone? Is it just...
It depends. So sometimes you really need to talk to someone by phone, obviously. And but usually in the evening we'll have more of an email exchange, and it's a time when it's a bit quieter for him too, so if I want an answer, I can usually get it then.
Yeah, I don't know how, I mean, with all those horses, so, so you're at the barn and you're making sure that, the people, everything's okay there. Is there any instances where, well, how many instances have there been, say, in the last few months where you're actually doing horse things? Like, have you saddled horses here this year?
Oh yeah, I'm here for every stake race, and when we have a busy card, on last Sunday International Day, we had 3 races where we had 2 horses, so all saddled. I also travel with the horses when we might be running distant state at Hawthorne or Arlington.
That's right. You were rushing up to Presque Isle one day when I saw you. You had your daughter in tow. Did you take her with you? Oh, come on, kid. We're going to Presque Isle. Didn't you win that stake? Yeah, that was Florida 1. That's right. Oh, okay. So you saddled him and did all that stuff.
That's one of my favorite things to do because I spend most of my days on the computer and on the phone. So to get a chance to get back for a few days in the stalls, I do really enjoy.
And you really enjoy the post-race interviews when talking about the horses. It's a little joke that Jason Portuondo, we do our Talking Horses TV show, and poor Catherine, of course, Mark is rarely here, and David Adams refuses to speak to the media. Like if we say, yeah, I know, he's shy. No, he doesn't. He's horrified when we come towards him. So Catherine gets stuck with, so Catherine, tell us about Conquest Daddy-O. Well, it was a good race, and she just doesn't like doing it at all.
No, I don't mind at all.
No, it's hard though. I mean, there's a lot of horses, and you don't know what maybe the plans are for a certain horse the next time. I mean, Conquest Daddy-O was kind of obvious. He won a win in your in race, the Summer Stakes. He's going to the Breeders' Cup. How much do you get to know the horses? I know there's so many coming and going out of the barn, but do you get to know certain horses intimately?
I do. There's some that really just catch you and you particularly like. When I get to travel with them, obviously I spend more time with them, then they get a little closer. Florida 1 is one of my all-time favorite horses. So yeah, there's certain other ones. They don't have to be a big horse like him. That just kind of for some reason catch you, and that I'll be a little bit more in touch with.
And Florida 1, is it his personality? What is it about him?
It's his personality, it's his heart. He's an incredible horse. Last fall, after he won the Ontario Derby, he had a terrible colic. He went for colic surgery. We actually didn't think he was going to make it to the clinic. He was so ill. And a lot of horses don't come back from that. And he's come back just brilliant. I mean, his first race, he was second in the Dominion Day. He won the Seagram Cup. He won the race at Presque Isle. His last race, unfortunately, didn't run as well. But I mean, he's just, I think, an incredible horse to be able to do that.
That's amazing to be able to get a relationship with that horse when you're doing all these kind of things with so many horses. Now, with Mark's barn here, he has horses coming in and out from other tracks, but also you guys have, somewhat of a training center, or you have horses at a training center. Tell us about that.
Yes, we have a training center. We use about an hour north of here. And so what will happen is after the horses race, they go up to the training center. We have some ground pens, some small pens they can go out, they can roll around, get some sun on their back, have a nice little break. Anyone who just needs a little bit of time off can go up there. It's just a nice break for them, mentally and physically. I think the horses need that. The racetrack can be kind of a high pressure atmosphere for the horses, so it's a nice place for them to have a little break. And then also we are able to have more horses in training here in Canada because the stalls are limited to 55 horses here locally. So we can have like 100 horses here in training.